Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Subas page 83, which introduces a new chapter that discusses that when you have a husband that makes a declaration and writes down that he does not want to have any connection, he relinquishes his rights to his wife's possessions, what is the law? So this chapter discusses that there's actually three things that a husband has rights to. When a woman brings property called nichsim alug into a marriage, the law is that she retains ownership of the land, and he has rights to what's called the peros, the fruits, the produce. That is one thing that he's entitled to. Secondly, because he has this right to the fruit, she cannot just go ahead and sell this property, because, again, he has this connection, and therefore that's a second right that he has. Finally, in the event that she dies, because they're now married, the law is that he inherits all of these possessions. Now, when he made this statement, the question is, what was he allowing her to do, or what was he relinquishing? So because he wasn't specific to all the other things, we say he was probably only relinquishing one right. And we say that right was that if she wanted, she could sell her property. Now, the Talmud here asks, how do we know that of the three things, that is actually the thing that he is relinquishing? So in this, the Talmud says, because it was said in such a vague manner, we have to assume that what he is offering is the lowest thing, namely that he is relinquishing the right which is the least significant or the smallest potential loss for himself. And therefore it's self-understood that out of all these three things, it makes sense that it is this right that she could sell this property. The question is why? Maybe he's saying that if you die, I'm not going to be the one that inherits any of this property. It'll go to your relatives. On this, the Talmud says something quite fascinating. The Talmud says that misa shchicha, mechira lo shchicha. Literally, death is common and selling is not common. Well, misa, death, is obviously something which is a 100% guarantee. And this is something which the man knows. Now, of course, doesn't mean that he's going to outlive her, but in the event that she dies, he is not going to automatically want to relinquish all of the inheritance that he potentially can receive. And therefore, because this is something which is on his mind, we're not necessarily going to assume that this is the thing that he's willing to give up, because it's something which is guaranteed, or again, according to the language, it is frequent. However, selling property, the Talmud says, is not frequent. And therefore, he says to himself, this land is probably not going to be sold anyway. Why? Because this is a land that she received from her family, which means it's an ancestral field. She has an emotional connection to it. There is some intrinsic value to it. The fact that her parents gave her this property, she's probably not going to go and sell it anyway. And therefore, because of that, more than likely, the one thing that he was willing to let go of is this right, knowing that there's a good chance it's not even shchiach, it's not even common, it's probably never going to happen that she's going to want to sell it anyway. If she wishes to, she can. But we see from here a very important concept, is that when a person gives you something, such as some type of nice gift, so if a person would go around and just repackage it and give it to someone else, that certainly is probably not the way a person should go about doing things. Now, if it's your own family members that give you something, not something which is insignificant, but an actual property, for a person to just turn around and want to sell it is something which is even more unlikely. Therefore, because of this, as we said, when it comes to this situation, when he was willing to relinquish his rights, most likely it was this one thing.